Most guitar players are practicing the wrong way, but it's actually not your fault. It's because you've been taught a method that wasn't designed for what you actually want to do with the instrument. The truth is, most of what we traditionally call practice is maybe 10% of what actually matters. And on top of that, it's the most boring part of the puzzle. So you've been told to spend all of your time doing this tedious, boring stuff that doesn't even lead to 90% of the results. But that changes today because I'm going to teach you a better way to learn that's backed by real science. It's going to take me a few minutes to fully explain, but just give me a chance to break it down and I promise it will change how you think about practice and improve on the guitar forever. Let's begin. Let's start with the first of three big ideas that will completely change everything. It's the distinction between closed skills and open skills. These are terms from the science of motor learning, and it's easiest to understand if we first look at sports as an example. With closed skills, the goal is to repeat the same action the same way every single time. So think about sports like golf, archery, or sprinting. You're not reacting to an opponent or a massively changing environment. It's just up to you, your technique, and repetition. In music, this is kind of like performing a classical piece. The notes are written, the tempo is fixed, and you're aiming for control, accuracy, and consistency across your performances. All of these describe closed skills. By contrast, open skills happen in dynamic, constantly changing environments. For example, sports like tennis or soccer. And I'm sorry, I'm an American, so I call football soccer. But you know what I mean. Football/soccer is a particularly good example because the ball is coming at you at different angles and different speeds. Your opponents are coming at you at different angles and different speeds, and your players are all moving around, and there's just so many different things happening at once. Remember, this is open skills, and the amount of openness in the game is one of the reasons soccer is so hard to play. On guitar, this is like improvising or playing with a live band that only follows a loose structure like a chord progression. Now, if it wasn't clear yet, the vast majority of guitar students that I encounter, and probably you watching this right now, you're probably struggling most learning open skills. Nailing the changes, being spontaneous, navigating the fretboard, these are all open skills. And finally, we're at the big idea, and this is why you're struggling. Closed skills and open skills require radically different practice methods. But after spending 15 years in music schools, one thing that I've learned is that a huge part of music education uses methods that are catered towards closed skills. And that's because most of music education draws from classical traditions, and even if you never go to music school, that influence still trickles down to everything we do on the guitar, from books to local teachers and so on. The way lessons are taught, the way practice is structured, the kinds of exercises people repeat that you should do for years. It's all mostly designed around closed skills. So if you've ever wondered why you still can't nail the changes or visualize the fretboard or connect everything in a way that feels dynamic and compelling, it's because these are all open skills and they require a different method. Unfortunately, almost no one teaches this the right way, and we see this also when it comes to this idea of sports. If, for example, you ask a high-level athlete what they're actually physically doing, what they describe and what the data and the cameras show are actually very different. And that's because people who have a natural aptitude for things, who are very skilled, they often don't understand the skill that they're really doing. This is why some of the best guitar players in the world are simply not great teachers. It came so easy to them that they don't have a great way of breaking it down and explaining it to someone who it didn't come easy to. And it just so happens that the arts, especially music, has a very high attrition rate, meaning the people who make it to being a teacher for you one day are probably people who started off very talented to begin with. In fact, one of my gifts and curses is that I was never naturally good at music. I was always more inclined to teaching and science, so I had to work extremely hard and put a lot of thought into developing skills over the last 20 or so years. And yeah, if you spend 20 plus years working on something, you're going to get at least decent at it most of the time. But anyway, one quick disclaimer, because I know if someone watching this is a classical musician or a motor learning expert, they're going to tell me that classical music, even golf, these are not perfectly closed skills. And they're correct. Because if we're being technical, the concept of open skills and closed skills exist on a spectrum. Even a golfer has to worry about things like the wind that day, which changes how he might hit the ball slightly. And of course, every classical music performance is going to be different. There's going to be different crowd interaction, feelings that day, different rooms you're playing in, all of that stuff. So no, classical music doesn't sit entirely on the closed end of the spectrum because every performance is dynamic, of course. But broadly speaking, especially compared to things like soccer or improvisation, classical music leans more towards a closed skill framework. And please just remember this quick summary of point 1 before we move on to the next big idea, point number 2. You cannot train closed skills and open skills the same way. If your main approach to practice is built around closed skill repetition, you'll never reach your open skill goals. We're going to get to point number 2 in a second, but if any of this is already clicking with you, I built an affordable community designed specifically for normal adult guitarists. It's structured, supportive, and focused on helping you make real progress without overwhelm. So if you're ready to finally start achieving your guitar goals, have fun, and eliminate confusion, pause this video right now, click the link below, and come join us. Let's continue with big idea number 2, and this one is all about how we actually learn best as human beings. And I'm taking this next part from something called ecological learning. It comes from a branch of sports science and motor learning that studies how people develop skills in the real world. The core idea, at least in theory, is this. We don't build skill by memorizing information or repeating motions in isolation. We build skill by interacting with challenges in a way that reflects the real world. That means that learning is very much context dependent. It's not just about perfect repetition, it's about dynamic interaction. And here's something important that will solidify it all for you. We all know that kids have the ability to learn at faster and deeper levels than adults. Part of this is, of course, just biology and how the brain develops at different ages. But part of this is also how kids approach learning, and we can learn a lot from them. If you give a child a drum and a stick, they just start banging things and figuring it out by themselves. They have fun and they play. But we adults have a tendency to overthink things and we tend to want explicit instructions. So oftentimes we want the rules first, the method, the explanation, the theory. We worry we're doing it wrong and spend half the day searching online for solutions instead of just interacting with the thing we're trying to solve. Now, of course, having a method and instructions can be helpful, absolutely. But it often gets in the way of real learning, especially with adults. This is one of the biggest reasons adults struggle with things like improvisation and fretboard navigation in particular. They try to figure it out instead of just exploring it. And that's where ecological learning comes in. This model says, don't teach the solution, design the environment where the solution can emerge. In other words, stop explaining so much and start playing inside the problem. Summary of big idea number 2, real learning happens through interaction, not only explanation. Instead of memorizing theory or repeating drills, we improve by engaging with real challenges that we encounter in real music. And now that we understand ecological learning, the third and final big idea is this. You can train musical skills through small, focused, fun games, and you can do it in as little as 15 minutes a day. This is a framework often used in sports science to help athletes develop skills in game-like environments. Instead of telling someone how to do something, you can create a challenge that forces them to figure it out for themselves. And I do this with the people I work with all the time. Let's say I want you to start targeting chord tones in your solos. Rather than explaining all of the theory up front and saying you should be moving in this direction to get to this note and from here to there, I might say something like, here's one triad shape. Play around with the idea of landing on one of these notes right as the chord comes. You can lead into it however you want. You can use whatever rhythms you want. I just want you to play with the idea. Now notice, I'm not telling you you have to use eighth notes or triplets. I'm not telling you to use scale tones or chromatics. I'm just giving you this one task and this one simple idea for you to explore. And the beautiful thing is, this type of game mimics much more closely what actually happens when you improvise. Not only is this method faster, it's actually fun and you develop your own approaches to music this way. We can create all types of these little games to address different weaknesses. Over time, they stack up into real deep skills that are there for you when you need it. You can build rhythmic feel, phrasing, fretboard fluency, all of these different things just by designing small intentional challenges that mirror real-world playing environments. This is one of the best ways to bridge the gap between practice and performance. It's how we stop memorizing and start solving musical problems. So summary of big idea number 3. You can learn faster and more efficiently by playing structured games. All of the things we talked about today must be combined into some type of real-world actionable thing. So even if you want to improvise, sometimes you need to work on simple repetition. If you learn theory the right way, it can enhance your playing rather than bogging you down. And something else that's significant here is that these structured games have to be designed very specifically if you want to actually get the benefits. And guys, I've been saying this for years now, but as you know, most guitar instruction online is simply put lazy. All of the 101 licks, all of the overcomplicated concepts, all of the flashy solos that look cool but teach you nothing. There is no real structure, no guidance, and that leaves everyone feeling frustrated and overwhelmed. That's exactly why I built my affordable group linked below. It's designed for normal adult guitarists who want a clear, structured path with real guidance and feedback so you can reach your guitar goals. The lessons are focused, the activities are simple, and everything is designed so you can improve in just 15 minutes a day. So if you want to finally achieve your guitar goals, come join us by clicking the link below this video. And by the way, I know I am, of course, Dr. Andre Flood. I have all of these fancy degrees in music, but guess what? I didn't learn this concept in music school. I learned this concept actually doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If you guys don't know, I'm a very big fan of combat sports, and I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for a while now. And so there's this whole big movement over the last couple of years to educate people on this idea of learning more efficiently in BJJ. I tried it myself, got rapid results in literally weeks, and I thought to myself, this is exactly the way I also teach guitar. There's this really interesting gap here that I didn't know the science behind until recently. So this is just another reminder that people who tell you you need to focus so hard on just one thing, only play guitar for 7 or 8 hours a day, that's total nonsense. Some of my best insights as a player and as a human and teacher come when I'm away from the guitar. So yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having hobbies outside of music that can actually make you a better guitar player as well.